I know it's Christmas, a season of goodwill to all and all that, but yeesh, this one's rough.
Up from the sewer into the streets to buy a gift we go. Grab the yellows away to Macy's, but hey, it's cold, here comes the snow. Oh, stores will be closing, it's really late. I don't have one idea.
Yo, bad attitude, no problemo, dude. We'll get something, never fear.
After TMNT 3 failed to garner the success that Golden Harvest wanted it to, it was pretty much seen as the end of the line for the live-action Turtles franchise for the time being. And while they would return for a lengthy stint in 1997 for The Next Mutation, the wilderness years of 1994 to 1996 are turbulent and altogether a crumulent time for the franchise. The 80s animated series would wind down to a spectacularly underwhelming shuffle off the coil, and while it was the end of the live-action Turtles movies, it was far from the end of the line in terms of live-action appearances. In fact, throughout most of the 90s, the Turtles would still frequently make live-action appearances on shows like Oprah and in PSAs for things like not doing drugs and stranger danger. But inevitably, when a series like this runs out of steam, there's always someone eager to grift a few extra bucks out of the preserved and hollowed out corpse. Enter Larry Osborne, the man who picked up the Turtles and pretty much guaranteed they'd be out of the public consciousness till the mid-2000s at the earliest. You see, Osborne only has 2 directing credits. Turtle Tunes, which... oh lord, another day! And the subject of today's review, 1994's We Wish You a Turtles Christmas. And these are the only 2 projects that he's worked on. Unsurprisingly, I can assure you, We Wish You a Turtles Christmas isn't set in the live-action Turtles movie universe, believe it or not. It's actually set in the 80s cartoon universe. How do I know this? Well, allusions to Bebop and Rocksteady pretty definitively put this special into the cartoon universe. Unless there was some kind of off-screen 4th movie that brought Shredder, Krang, Bebop and Rocksteady into it. I know this is a series about 4 turtles who mutated into ninjas through the power of radioactive waste, but even I would find that idea a bit far-fetched. The plot itself is pretty much as simple as it can get. It's Christmas! Christmas Eve to be specific, and the Turtles are settling down ready for a night of chilling, eating pizza and waiting for Santa. That is until it's revealed that they've accidentally forgot to get a present for Master Splinter. So the 4 friends venture out of the sewer, singing all the while, to try and find one of the few parental figures in their life the perfect Christmas gift. This culminates with them ending up buying Splinter a load of Christmas gifts, to which Splinter says that the true meaning of Christmas is spending time with the ones you love. Cue schmaltzy, heart of the cards, friendship conquers all, japery and sing-songery. And roll credits. And that's it. That's the entire special. It clocks in at about 21 minutes. Did I mention that this was a fully RRP'd commercial VHS release that actually cost money in an actual shop? Because at best this would have cost only slightly less than a standard VHS release, and at worst it would have sold for the exact same price as many retail VHS tapes. I don't really know where to begin in unpacking this travesty. I realise that I'm not the first YouTube-based critic to pick on this, and God knows I won't be the last. When I first found out about this special, I was convinced that there had to be some level of exaggeration in exactly how bad it could possibly be. No piece of film could be quite as awful as this would appear to be from a distance. But now, having sat through the whole thing, I can confirm that, no, I was wrong. It's actually as bad as it could possibly be. From the top, the script is just non-existent. This one comes to us courtesy of Tish Raab, a writer most formally known for kids' television, whose credits list includes this, Turtle Tunes, and a couple of other bits and pieces. Probably her biggest credit on her filmography would be Clifford's Puppy Years, which, you know, it's alright, but pretty much her entire filmography is both riddled with holes, and what there is not particularly anything to write home about. And that's before we even get to this script. The actual plot is functional. That's it. There's no substance, no effort behind it. They were asked to write a 20 to 30 minute Christmas special. They delivered a 21-minute effort that literally consists of, we forgot to buy presents for somebody, we better buy them a present, it's Christmas. The rest of the runtime is literally fleshed out by playing the credits sequence twice, one at the beginning and one at the end, ludicrously awful songs, more on that later, and dialogue that literally amounts to the characters just sort of ad-libbing dialogue till they use up enough time to get to the next song. That literally feels like the entire purpose of the script here, by the way. It really does feel like somebody half-arsed half a dozen Christmas songs by just cramming a load of Turtles references into them, and then with the gap that was created between each song, they needed to fill it with anything, because the songs on their own only ultimately ran to about 13 minutes. It's a real poor show, and it just absolutely screams cash in. Only further adding to the cheapness of the whole thing, the cinematography and direction is just lazy. Really lazy. Everything is shot pretty much freehand, and it really gives off the vibe like they don't have a shot plan, or a scene structure, or a shot list, or anything really. It genuinely feels like it could be best summed up as, hey guys, people are doing stuff, quick, get the camera, get the camera! It all feels like it could easily have been done in one take, handheld, just panning around the cast and crew. Also, as a very odd directional choice, there are kids just randomly inserted into some of the musical numbers. In the sewer, at 11 o'clock at night, in the middle of New York. And then again on Christmas morning. Where did the kids even come from? Why are their parents not concerned? How did they even get into the sewer, let alone navigate the New York sewer system to find the Turtles' hideout? It's just awkward and a bit weird. I'm trying to avoid talking about the costumes, partially out of politeness, mainly out of fear. It's quite obvious that these suits are not from either of the companies responsible for the live-action movies. In fact, these costumes come from a relatively unknown company called Entropy Entertainment. And they are literally nightmare fuel. I don't know how much money went into designing these costumes, but it most definitely was not enough. When it came to the live-action movie costumes, I now feel like I was being way too harsh on their designs. They look like masters of intricacy when compared to these costumes. What's so wrong with them? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask, because I'm going to tell you now anyway. First off, they're proportionally off. Their necks, arms and legs are too narrow in comparison to their torso and heads. The turtles should be a little bit on the chunky side. They're turtles, and not helping matters, their bodies look like they're wearing spandex with American football padding. And that harder chest plate looks out of place when you consider that that part of their body should be soft shell. Where do I begin with their heads? Well, for starters, their masks look like they're fused or moulded onto their heads. It looks like it would hurt to remove them. They've made their teeth way too prominent, meaning that more often than not they look like they're all bearing demented-looking grins. And not helping matters, they've simultaneously made their eyes way more detailed than they naturally should be, whilst also making their eyelids way more prominent than they need to be. The result is a set of heads that look warped, misshapen, and somewhat manic with weird and unsettling movements. They've also overlit the costumes in most of the shots they're in. The Turtles' outfits usually work best when they're moodily lit, shadowy. It makes the costumes look higher quality while at the same time giving them a sort of added layer of animation because the eye is tricked into seeing emotion in the dark that isn't really there. Here they're lit up like the Blackpool Illuminations, and because of this it makes every fault, every false move, every thing just painfully visual and deeply unsatisfying to look at. And that's not to mention the fact that for some reason they've decided to make these costumes the brightest green and yellow it's possible to have for costumes like this, and all the finer details like the darker skin splotches that helped make the older costumes look a bit more lived in are sadly noticeable by their absence. Their whole design looks like someone was given a 10-minute quick brief on what the Turtles looked like with no reference material, and then they were told to just crack on with it. And it looks awful and terrifying and deeply unpleasant all in equal measures. And I point blank refuse to talk about what the fuck they've done to Splinter, because he looks like he's suffering from an edema-related illness. No offence to any edema-related sufferers out there, but goddamn, what have they done to him? As if to only enhance the craptacular nature of the whole affair, the music is frankly painful. What we have here is several Christmas classics reworded to make them more turtle-friendly, with classics like Deck the Halls being turned into Deck the Halls with Pepperoni, the 12 Days of Christmas being bastardised into a horrifically overly long Drek-filled mess, and even some public domain songs being randomly slotted in, such as Over the Hills and Through the Woods, which is just wrong. It's all cheap synth music, and it's all just not good. I really wish I could be more constructive with my criticism on that, but it's just awful. I mean, it's in tone, and they hold a note sometimes, but that's where the praise begins and ends, really. And in some cases it's barely even in tone. Finally, and I really can't let this one fly by under the radar, the editing is probably one of the most 90s things I've reviewed on this channel to date. The movie opens with some quick cut shots of the Turtles decked out in luminous colours and looking totally tubular. The opening sequence is arguably about as tight as this edit gets. From there on in, it's all loose cuts with very few breaks, and it really feels like a lot more tightening up could have been done. Though Lord knows how long a decently cut together version of this would run to. My guess would be about 10 minutes, if that. We Wish You a Turtles Christmas was released on VHS in 1994 by Family Home Entertainment. And it still blags my head that this was a fully retail costed tape that ran for literally 21-ish minutes long. Since then it's never been seen again, and quite honestly the world is a much better place for it. May it forever rot in celluloid hell, and may it never see the light of day again, lest one of the final 7 seals be broken, casting darkness upon the land for many years to come. After having my hopes somewhat redeemed by TMNT 3, we somehow ended up nosediving into a genuinely terrifying at times bargain basement level of quality that somehow simultaneously left me captivated and petrified. This was terrible, truly and utterly terrible, irredeemable in many regards. And yet the Turtles franchise would remain in this quagmire for over a decade. While the next mutation would go some way to cleaning up the franchise's image, it wasn't nearly enough to cover up for this absolute abomination of filmmaking. To me, this is easily one of the worst, if not the worst thing that the Turtles franchise has ever produced. And if you never have to lay eyes on it beyond this, count yourself very lucky.